Hi, it's Xavier and welcome to the Bonsai Retreat, and today we're looking at the azaleas because they're blooming marvellous. Ba-bum. Now, seriously, I cannot be more overjoyed with just how good they're looking, and you know, I'm the first one to admit that, you know, look back 5 weeks ago I was moaning and whinging because the leaves were all horrible looking, and as far as I was concerned there weren't going to be any flowers or anything. I moan a lot, don't I? Well, what's there to moan about? Absolutely delightful. It is definitely going to be the best year for these blooms. It's funny how this one here, it's got such bright green leaves but literally only had 2 blossoms, and this one here, a few more, but there's going to be some heavy pruning on that without a doubt. But this one, which you've seen a few clips of already, that's just, it's got a great shape, looks like a lovely bonsai, and on top of that it's got blooms to die for. Look at that. Well, there is no doubt that this is probably the best the flowers are going to look, and I think they're even better than what you've just seen a week ago. But I've had a week's worth of flowers and already they're starting to die, and I want to build this back again and start bringing it in a lot tighter. So I'm going to start removing some of these beautiful, beautiful flowers. So should we take this flower here off? Look at it there. We've got some new ones behind it. We look all the way here and we grab right down here. So we grab the whole seed pod as well. Show you again. Lovely, beautiful flower. I'm going to get right down in the base there. Grab the whole seed pod. Now obviously the reason why we're doing this is because we don't want all the energy from this going to seeds that we don't need. So I'm going to keep working my way right in there, take those flowers off. I'll leave the ones, also going to take the diseased leaves off and the ones that haven't opened. And I know I could enjoy it for longer, but here's the truth. I've got other stuff to be doing as well. I've enjoyed them. I want to move forwards. So does that mean you have to take the flowers off now? No. Wait until they start dropping. Every time you see one that's looking a bit ropey, there, this one's starting to brown at the edges here, then go okay. Right in there. I'm going to keep going round until this tree doesn't look like this tree. But I might actually wait until the sun's gone down because, yeah, I'm burning. Okay, well, I imagine certainly a week's passed since I did the last recording when we saw one of these in beautiful flower, and in fact it's still got 2 lovely flowers on it. It's actually the 4th of July. Isn't that a big event somewhere? I'm not sure. Somewhere in the States, the 4th of July. Lots of fireworks. Is there a tea party or something? There's something to do with tea, I'm sure. Anyway, I'm sure someone will say something in the comments. What we're going to do today, believe it or not, is finish off this really short video, and it's how I get the best from my Satsuki Azaleas for back budding. Flowers have all gone, and as I keep saying, and I've probably said it a few times already, we're going to do some pruning on some branches to bring the structure back in. We're also going to look at a few where we've actually got shoots of 5 that have come out of a single point, reducing them down to 2, and basic maintenance. I don't intend to do any repots this summer. I'm actually going to have a little look at doing some repots in the spring, just as a bit of a different experiment. I've done the repots most summers, to be fair, with these. None of them are overly pot bound to my knowledge, but this one I am going to have an experiment with. Anyway, let's see if I can pick the best examples so I don't bore you too long, and we'll get cutting, shall we? Okay, so we'll look at this one first. I mean, I love this. This is my best Satsuki Azalea, and it's got nice definition of areas, and for me, I'm really quite happy with it, and I don't see a lot of work to do, if any at all. What I do need to do is just have a look and see if I've got shoots further back in some of these. They're quite leggy branches, so I would probably be wiring these out, and just reducing some areas where just perhaps it's a good time now to sort out issues down here, the way that branch comes out. We've got here, we've also got little shoots coming out. I've got to decide whether or not I want all of them. I might want one, because looking at where that is, it could actually be quite nice to have a pad coming out this side. I may actually end up losing one or both of these. And then I've just got to decide whether or not any of these branches I actually want to shorten. It's always daunting, because especially on something like this where you've got all this lovely pad growth, you know, the thought of actually pushing it right back can be quite scary. But I think I've definitely shown you in a number of azalea pruning videos, even this year with the dwarf, they will prune back. So that's what we're going to do. I'll bring you close and we'll get some work done on this. We'll look down here, this branch here. Now what I wanted was, there's a dead bud there, so that didn't work. So I've got a choice of removing it entirely or just having another go at it. So I'm just going to cut it, and I can look at that and see the branch is dead there. Go further back, a little bit of life there. So I've gone right back on that. We have a look on this one. We've got, this is where we look at shoots. Got 1, 2, so 2 shoots on that. I'm happy with that. See if there's any horrible leaves, and I'm generally happy with that. The length, I could go shorter, but for the size of this tree I'm not unhappy. What I have to decide is here on this one, it's going directly upwards, and it's whether I actually just want to remove it. If I remove it, then we open up that space there, which gives me room to actually move that one across, and I'm going to do that this time. And for those of you who are asking, yes, I will make sure I use that. So I put a hole. I'm not going to put paste or anything. I'm literally just going to put it in there nice and deep. Fill it up. And, you know, there's definitely better than 50-50 chances I'll get a nice little twin trunk out of that. I will water that and I'll put that in my little grow box. Okay, so we've got rid of that now. We've got a little stub there. Here, 2s and 2s, so I haven't got any real issue there. I'm just removing some really tacky leaves. From here we are going to start getting swirls of 5, and you could possibly start seeing them. When they become more pronounced, then I'll start removing, but I've got a tree I can show that to you on in a minute. This again, 2, this one has got, if you look here, we've actually got buds further back, but and for now I'm going to leave that. I'm happy enough with that. Just do that, just remove some of these bigger leaves. Working around here, we've actually got here, if you look, 2 buds a lot closer in, so I can take that back, and I've got a choice of thinking, do I get rid of this top one? But for now I'm going to let that develop out. Then we've got 2 buds coming from this point here, which is lovely, and then on this big one here we've actually got 1, 2, 3, so I'm going to remove the middle one, and in here I can see there's a swirl of 5, but it's not yet big enough. Underneath the back here we've got this one here. Now that can be wired out that way, or I can actually say, do you know what, coming close to that junction, I'm just going to get rid of it. I've never liked it particularly, so there's an opportunity then to wire those out. So that's what I'll do going around there. I'll also make sure that we haven't got any buds. There is one there that hasn't been removed. Get rid of those. Here, same thing, we've got a stub there. That looks quite weak growth. We've got more growth on that one. But I'm actually thinking with that one, I'd really like that branch to be a lot more horizontal. There's a temptation to go, do you know what, should we cut it right back here? Don't know. But there's another example of threes here. If you have a look here, we've got 1, 2, 3. I'm going to take out the middle stronger one. Just leave the 2 buds there. Just clear out some leaves so light gets in all right. From there, there's 2 and 2. We've got a small one down the bottom here, and then we've got this bud here. Bearing in mind this is the front, do I really want this, or do I take this away and keep this? I don't think it's enough. It's enough of an issue right now. Tell me what you think in the comments. It's going to keep growing up. That's the problem with it, till it actually obscures the part up here. But imagine if you get loads and loads. This didn't have any flowers. If you get loads of flowers on this, you obviously want to look in here. Now I said I might want a pad coming out, so I don't want that one. I don't want the one that's in there either. So we get rid of that. So that leaves us this one here, and I don't really want that one there, because otherwise then we'd end up having more than 2 from one branch. So we've got just this one, and see what happens with it. So that's all cleaned up in there. Great big lump of one here, we'll push that out. Okay, so I will continue to go around, clear up that, and make decisions on where I do see little branches like that. I'll make decisions whether or not to keep them. Okay, so I've given this a good clean up. I tend to take lots of older leaves off the bigger leaves, so we've got a much fresher growth. Cleaned it all up. As I say, I wasn't intending to do very much with it. I like it. I like the pots and the Dawn Isaac ceramic. It's definitely healthy, but it didn't flower, and I had a look in there. There were a lot of dead, small, unformed flower buds that just fell out. So again, not entirely sure why it did that. If someone does know why you get the sort of solid unformed buds not actually doing anything, let me know in the comments. I do think though, I only repotted this 2 years ago. Azalea are normally quite happy in their pots for 3-4 years, certainly something this old, so chances are I won't repot it. There's this great mat here of roots here. It's a solid lump, and that may be something to consider, breaking that up a little bit, but because it's so green and healthy looking, I don't really want to do very much with it. So let's go find an example of one where I can show you the reducing the 5s to 3s, 2s and all that sort of stuff. Now this one didn't flower at all this year. Healthy green growth, but didn't flower. This one I may well do a summer repot. I'm not going to show you how the repot works. It's exactly the same, but I'll use Kanuma. Yeah, so this one, as I say, didn't flower. It's got lots of buds underneath it. Got shoots coming from here, so we'll go in close and I'll show you some of the stuff I'm talking about doing. And this one here, this is the best example of where we get from the single branch. Normally the flower will have budded out through the center, and then once you've got rid of the flower, it'll form 1, 2, 3, 4 shoots, and often that will be 5. And all you do is you have a look at this, as you would do with anything where you've got a junction like that. I tend to clean those junctions up a little bit so I can actually see what I've got. As I say, there we go. I've got this 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll think, right, orientation of the tree, what do I want? What's going to give me the best angle, and what are the healthiest looking? And in this instance, do I want to be bringing the inward growth, or do I want it to be continuing outwards? And it's personal preference, to be honest. This tree is a long way to go. If I take those 2 off, then we've actually got quite a long branch here with no growth. So do I want to keep it in compact? If I do that, then the flowers that will grow, or the buds that come from here, will come up this way, so it may cramp it. So I definitely don't want that one there, so I'll remove that. So it's down to 3. I don't want the length, so I'm actually going to take out the middle one, and they're going to be the 2 I've picked. And again, it's a very, very personal decision. So that's an example of reducing to 5. Now that's quite a long length, so I may even next year cut that down right back here, and if I wanted to, I could cut that now to try and encourage branching lower down. And that's the example of reducing from groups of 4 in this case to 2, picking your 2 best, depending on where you see your tree going. And again, with this one, it's a bit of a tangle. What I'm actually going to do is put some wire and bring this one around, so I'll do that. The other thing to watch out for, again, lots of growth on this, but we've got lots of shoots coming from in quite close. There's definitely one here which we can get rid of. This one here is actually going to count as quite low down, but again, I've got to clear out a little bit of leaf growth so I can actually see what's there. I think this is a case where we've actually got 3 buds from the same point. I'll get rid of that. And really decide whether or not what I've got is this situation here where one is directly below, so technically one's in the crotch, but that's the one that's causing this one up here. I might actually get rid of that. Now, I could wire it out, but I'll do that for now. So that's got a much flatter. Now, one of the things that we have got to look at is this, probably see it best here, this long branch that comes up all the way up here. Now my solution is going to be to actually wire into place, but it's a very, very brittle wood, and to be fair, I've got a funny feeling that I would have to keep the wire on for a while. I have got another option. I could actually just cut here and let it bud and see if we actually get a natural bud forming. So that's something I could consider rather than the wire, but because the other thing that I'll have a problem with on the wire is I'll have nothing here. So I'll have absolutely nothing from here, bare wood, so that's something to consider too. That's it. We've also looked down here, we've got a little bud coming from here, so I'd have an option of actually reducing the height on this, taking that out. So I've got this one here and this one up here. There's a center one there to remove. Here again, it's quite straggly. Okay, so I've got a bit of wire, put a bit of movement in there. As a result of that, I'm able to make decisions on this. I've actually got on here 1, 2, 3 from the same point. I'm going to remove the ones pointing upwards, which is this one, reducing this to 2, and then I'll go around, just clean it up a bit and do the same thing. Oh look, this is one where my branch has broken there, not a bad reason, and I'm actually looking at this and thinking it's all quite ugly here, and it's a very ugly structure, so I may actually reduce this handlebar and replace it with this. Probably what I actually want is back budding a lot further back, so I'm actually going to make that choice now. I don't like that. I'm going to remove it all. And you might say, wow, that was quite extreme. And yeah, it was, but I know I'm going to get budding from back here. That will then fill in, so I'm happy with that. Here, continuing, I've got, get rid of some of these leaves down here. I could do with, I've got 1, 2, 3, I've actually got 4 shoots from here. I'm going to take out that big one there. I'm going to take out the one that's pointing up there. that'll leave those. There's 3 from this one. I'll take out the one that's pointing up. So we're going to fan out. Now, one of the other decisions I've been trying to make, and hanging off for now, but decided that because I'm happy with the way this bud's back, is here. Another very, very ugly straight spur. It just, what I need to do is basically take it all the way back here, take this off, and although I like having this, and I could wire it round, in fact that's possibly an option, I actually want to see how it responds. So I'll take off all of this, and again, yes, I'll put in a I'll put this into a little bucket of something and see what happens. So I've actually pruned quite hard on this, and yes, you might say, oh, you shouldn't have. It's when you get this really bad structure, and this always happens when you've got these cheap imports. I will get buds back here. Back here, I may be able to rebuild completely. Same with here. If I get buds here, I can rebuild completely. And you've seen how quickly they send out shoots. It'll be very, very quick. Just looking at the top, we might as well finish this one off on the camera. Here are some of these droopy leaves, which I never liked having around. We've got a 3 up here. I've got to decide whether I take this one, or the middle one. It's just about looking how densely crowded it is, really. I think probably want to take the, oh, there's 4 in there actually, so I'm going to take the one going in, take that one off. That's going out to the back, just open it up a bit, so I'll take that. So now what we've actually given ourselves is a nice gap between the two. And that is probably all I'll do with that for now. Okay, now the more I looked at it, it was clear that this needed a repot. It's quite shallow in the pot itself. The roots are a little bit wobbly, and of all the ones I've got, this is probably the one that's, although it's got green growth, I'm most concerned about in the root structure. So we'll do a repot, and I'll show you exactly how I do a summer repot. Very carefully lift it out. And I also noticed that the soil I used on this was just a standard bonsai mix, which truthfully I try to avoid. Now I've picked a much deeper pot, and the mixture is basically 80% Kanuma and then my standard potting mix. Now we will very carefully just have a look and see what's going on here. There's very little obvious root growth from the sides here, and as I say, with azalea, as I've said before, always good to have a bit of a deeper pot. You don't want to cook the roots on the edges. And I think one of the biggest errors I made in the early days was I kept putting them into much smaller pots and just being a little bit unaware of how delicate these roots are. So very fine, so you've got to be careful not to rip and rend them. It says poking away with his big chopstick. But I do want to get rid of some of this old soil. Okay. So we've got quite a big gap here where there's nothing. There we go. I'm really trying to break in under there, because what I really want to make sure is we've got good percolation underneath, so that all the roots under there are actually getting water and oxygen and air. Okay. Now, Kanuma is a very, very dry soil, so it will leach the life out of your fingers, and that's pretty well in there. And again, just spread the roots out just a little bit. And what we'll do is just lots of Kanuma there, and then just make sure air pockets all the usual. Now Kanuma, for those who've worked on it, as well as being great for acidic loving plants, it also crushes very, very easily. So again, you don't want to be too rough and ready, otherwise all you end up doing is crushing it into a powder. And there's lots of room for roots to grow there. Give this a good watering. Now, I haven't tied it really tight in. There's a bit of movement on it. There's enough there that it'll hold fire for any major issues, but I'm very, very aware that these roots are fine and I don't want to be destroying them. Clean it up a bit. So I'll give that a good watering. So, all done. Nicely watered in. So we've demonstrated shoot selection where we've got the bundle of 4 or 5, picking the best 2. Done a little bit of branch cut back, just some general maintenance, and also where we need to, a repot into Kanuma and a little bit of wiring. So I think I've pretty well covered everything that I would be doing in this post-flowering Satsuki Azalea work, and all I've got to do now is the other 6 or 7. So, from Xavier, desperately trying to hang on to those last 2 flowers, I'll say thanks very much for taking the time to watch. I really hope now I've covered everything to do with the flowering azaleas. The next time I'll do anything at all with these, I may well do a bit of wire in the autumn or in the early spring, just to make sure where the new buds are going to be is going to come up to the flowers or point to the direction we want. But basically, that's it. I will be doing a lot of research though about this this issue with the leaves. I don't want to have that repeat next year, so I want to do a lot more work on that. And I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. Hope you got something out of this. Any questions, comments down below. But from my point of view, azaleas are #1. I love them. Cutting's brilliant. So happy bonsai and God bless. Cheers.